John from Ripewave Audio for this August 19th, 2024 edition of Ripewave Connections. And for this, we're going to ask the question, did JBL fail? Did it fail with these new modern audio AV receivers? Before we get into the details about that, a lot of comments have come in since we posted that video this weekend on that MA series. We do have some other questions coming in about prior videos. And we have this ongoing discussion about H1 from Denon versus Marantz's Cinema 30. You know, this gentleman saying, look, I need the channels. I need 3 rows of heights. I want my front wides. And there just isn't a lot out there that will do that. And those alternatives that can provide that are missing things. There's no DTS:X Pro, for example, or they're dropping Aural 3D. So this becomes a problem. It really forces you into these really expensive units, and I can sympathize with that. You know, this guy's doing a great analysis. He knows what he wants, but he can't find it at the price he's willing to pay. And it's really limited, you know, when you get below $5,000. Now he's saying, hey, that monoprice HTP1 seems like, hey, it's got the channels, 16 channels, it's got Aural 3, it's just missing DTS:X Pro. Will they come out with a refresh? And we haven't seen that. They've been slow on doing that. Then you get the AV10 processor from Marantz, also really expensive. Then you got to buy amplifiers on top of that. It's a tricky thing. When you want to do these channels, it becomes an awful big investment because there's just not a lot of options out there. Then he came back in, he says, oh, yeah, also the new RMC1 Plus models. But that is going to be selling for more than $5,000, in which we normally cut off, and he must know our channel pretty well. He's like, it's over your limit. And that's true, but I already have a unit, and they've got this program when it does come out. I'm going to be able to upgrade it for no more than $1,500. I have to check when I got mine, but you can get your unit upgraded to the new Plus model, which is going to bring in 8K. It's going to bring in enhanced Dolby Atmos, DTS:X Pro, a built-in Wi-Fi, a lot of the things that people have been asking for, and it's switching to a new DACs, new 200-watt power supply, and music streaming capability, which I don't really care about, but I like a lot of the other things that they're doing with it. We also had some feedback from a video from April of 2022 we did on the Anthem. And this one, I'm not sure I quite understand. He wants to be able to calibrate all the subs together. They bought it because it had 4 subwoofer capabilities and wanted to know if Marantz also does all 4 at once. Now, I'm not quite sure I understand here. The AVM90 supports 4 subwoofers. I think the 1140 top-of-line receiver does as well from Anthem. The Marantz AV10, as well as other models from Marantz down to the Cinema 50, support 4 subwoofers. So when you say you can't configure it all at once, I'm assuming that you have an Anthem that supports 4 subwoofers, as you said, and both Marantz and Anthem allow for independent control of the 4 subwoofers. If your goal is to configure all these at once, I still believe you're going to have, you know, unique settings in each subwoofer. So you want to have all 4 active at the same time during the calibration process to ensure that the best integration and balance. Instead, you're finding that you'll measure each subwoofer separately and believe the results cannot provide the best level of integration during real playback when all 4 are to work at once. I'm not sure we have to worry about that. The software, even if it's measuring those separately, should, if it's doing a good job, whether it's Anthem Room Correction, Dirac Live, or Odyssey, Mult EQX, whatever you're using, it should figure out how those are going to integrate together and work as a system. If you can, please clarify your question, but if I got it right, let me know. This guy is looking at Sony top-of-line, Denon, and Anthem top-of-line receivers and preamps. And he doesn't know quite what he wants to spend, and looking at all these options. And I'm coming back and say, well, your pool of Sony, Denon, and Anthem are all pretty unique. Usually I find the buyers kind of home into one of those because of certain characteristics. So You might go with Sony if you have a difficult room and speaker placements aren't ideal because they have that software to work that out. If you need a lot of channels, you want everything in one box with all the amplifiers, then the Denon A1H might be your choice. With Anthem, I find the buyers want something a little more unique than the standard Marantz and Denon brands. And they don't care if it doesn't have Aural 3D or DTS:X Pro. And what he came back with is, saying, look, I think what I really care about is being able to play the movies with the formats they're encoded with. So if the movies aren't encoded with Aural 3D or DTS:X Pro, I'm probably fine with like the Anthem that just has Atmos and DTS:X. So that's a good point. You want to gear this around the content. Now, a lot of people like that Aural 3D up mixer, so you would lose that capability. And you can even do that with the movies that you have already, even if they're not encoded with Aural 3D. So keep that in mind. So, interesting how everybody goes through this process to determine what's going to be right for them. And we hope to help you along the way. And he's been watching this on the Sony series. We did the review of the STR AZ7000ES. He's also saying that he would like to see Sony come out with a real flagship, something that's going to compete with the Anthem, with the Marantz. Just add a few things. Multi-sub support. Give us some more tools to visualize and help with our correction. I agree. If Sony could just add in like multi-sub support, give us more visualization and tools so we can do our corrections and not just what the built-in automated way to do it gives you. Let us go to target curves, right? Some advanced solutions for that. And he's like, oh yeah, there's, probably each has their own sound characteristics. Maybe Sony is a little bit more fun. And with our sound comparisons that we do at the end of all these series, we really only look at 2 parameters. So maybe I need to go in a little deeper and bring out some of these other elements and not just as how spacious it is or something like that. And then as he gets towards the end of the series, it's like feeling like Sony's acting like a smaller, younger company with bad apps and bad web interfaces and a lot of details missing. He thinks the TV interface does look cool, but again, he's raising some of these same points up. And they're fair comments. And we do want to see each of these brands elevate their solutions. And I really don't find a lot of excuses for mature brands like Sony that have a lot of money to making some of these mistakes. So point well taken. This person's writing in and say, hey, I'm disappointed with Macintosh. Sure, they put in HDMI 2.1 and Dirac Live. They're nice upgrades and mandatory upgrades, but not including the XLR balanced outputs for the subwoofer is a really strange decision. And I agree. I said that in the video. You can place these far away from where your receiver processor is. You have one at the back, one in the front. One of them is going to have a long length. It has to. And I agree. So I came back and he also said, look, the lack of DAC details is disappointing and the lack of streaming support. Now, I think the one area what maybe we diverge a little bit here is I think Macintosh really is a hardware development company. And that's what they've known for creating really good hardware. When it comes to software, I think they're either going to outsource that or not do it at all. And I think in this case, they decided let's not bother because we're not a software company. We're a hardware company. They didn't want to put that into this product. And you can get these externally. So it's not a lot of money to add it. And if you're in the market for something like this, you have $6,000 for it, adding an Apple TV, which is always going to be current. And even if Macintosh did put the streaming capability into their product, it's going to be outdated in a year. And they're not going to move as fast as Apple TV or whatever your favorite streamer is. This person's pointing out that you can get an Onkyo TX-RZ50 for $1,000. That's a great price. They're suggesting they're trying to clear these out. I don't know. It's an exciting price. I think they're probably not going to replace this in the next year. with a new model and not really trying to close it out, but maybe they want to move some inventory. So it's really nice. Good that it's nice when this community lets us know about those deals and we can pass them on to everybody. This one's asking if we've tried Netflix and Amazon Prime, and this was regards to the Yamaha flagship, the RX-A8A. And this is something that we're working towards. We're going to come out in the near future on streaming and support. I think this is the next place that we take it and how to do this even better. And he came back with a $10 donation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 2 thumbs up from Ripewave. Really helps this channel. Appreciate that donation. Thanks so much. This person's talking about buying a Marantz MM7025 in conjunction with a Cinema 50. Thinks this is performing well. He may not have a lot to base his opinions on, but I do think it's a good move because the more you can offload some of that demand, particularly put your front speakers on an external amp, that's going to make everything else run easier for the remaining channels that you're running from the receiver. So I think that's a good deal that you've done it that way. He's wondering though, because these look different. The Cinema 50 looks wildly different from the MM7025. So when you stack them up, they don't match as a set. I'm not sure Marantz is going to take that route. I think larger companies like Marantz would like to have you replace everything in your system rather than trying to make older equipment match the newer one. So I don't think we're going to get that from Marantz. But you get a smaller company, and I know Emotiva has done this, you can still to this day purchase their aluminum trim kits, and you can get a silver one and a black one. The silver one is their prior generation, and the black one is their new generation. So you can make a new product look like an old one and an old one look like a new one by putting these trim kits on their amplifiers and what have you. This person has just upgraded their Denon Dirac Live bass control from single subwoofer to multi-subwoofer. And he didn't think that it's actually working and wanted to know, how do I really enable this once I purchase the license? And this is a really good question. So what you're going to have to do, if you already had 2 or more subs already in your system before getting the new license, and they've already been measured by Dirac Live, and you're not adding or subtracting any speakers or subwoofers from your speaker layout or change their position, do not redo your measurements. Reload those measurements, open up Dirac Live, open up that measurement session that was good. Now go into your filters and now run it for multi-sub calibration. Export those now to your Denon receiver, and you should start hearing a difference. And he said, this is exactly what I did. And now the bass is much more smooth. He really appreciated the guidance on this one. So nice to work with you. Glad we could help in this case. Then we got some feedback on the updates we did on August 16th with the Ripewave connections. A couple of individuals writing, hey, I didn't know this was going to be a daily affair where you're doing Ripewave connections. Well, we're going to give it a try to do it as many days as possible. It does take a lot of energy, and I do appreciate you realizing that this is an effort to try to get this interaction happening on a more regular basis. Whether I actually pull it off every day or we skip a few days, that's to be seen. But I think what I got to do is work on my workflow and get more efficient, creating all these slides. How this actually gets presented on a daily basis may change to bring in that efficiency, but I do want to keep this going where we stay more connected on a more regular basis. So thanks to the both of you for giving your comments on that. This person says, look, the subject matter in these videos really requires advanced knowledge to appreciate its benefits. And I do understand that it's sometimes hard to know how to pitch this. How much do we assume the audience knows? And how much do we have to bring them up to a certain level so we're all on the same page? I think maybe I should have a few introductory type videos to catch people up, and then they can come in on these more advanced topics and pick up from there. Point well taken, though. It's often hard to know how to pitch it. we've had this ongoing discussion about configuring things like the Apple TV or the Roku. Was another thread we had last week, getting them to work in the way you expect them to work. We continue to get emails on this, and this particular one say, hey, I was blaming maybe the receiver, maybe misconfiguring that, but then it could be the configuration of the Apple TV that could actually be causing the problem and not the receiver. What I like to do is start from the source down. So if the movie isn't encoded in Atmos, then shouldn't expect native Atmos coming through. Then go to, the streaming service itself, whether that's Netflix or Amazon Prime, and say, hey, am I on the right plan with them to get me Atmos coming out? If so, yes. Is that movie that I'm connecting to have Atmos? Is the streamer that I've got connected to the TV? Then maybe I also have to make sure that that's sending the ARC signal back. Even the Apple TV device has its own setting. Got to get that right. Making sure it goes from ARC back to the receiver right. Or if it's plugged directly into the receiver, there's less to go wrong there. And then finally, if you're still having problems, it could be a receiver setting. It still could be that. So things you've got to work through to make sure this is all right, and we're going to keep at this. Now, this person has a Marantz Cinema 40, but it's got sick, and it's getting service by Marantz. He's switching over to a Sony top-of-the-line STR-AZ 7000ES 13.1 channel. So here's actually the Sony, I think is a little bit less money than the Marantz. What's really good for this individual is he has the wireless speakers. And this is where it's a good pairing. If you got those wireless speakers to go in, and that's what you're trying to accomplish, that's the product for you. So I can see why he's making this switch. Now, this person was weighing in on the new XPA compact chassis that's out there. And he says, this is a good solution. He has the XPA-5. When he went to put it into his console, it was too deep. So they had to do some tricky modifications to make it work. It's good that he didn't give up on the XPA-5 because it's a good sounding unit, and he wanted to go through the effort to make it work. But now with the compact one, he would have had another option. This is just simply thanking us for the video. Watch these every day. Well, glad to have you here with us, and hopefully you're tuned in for this one as well. And then this was one of our first weighing in on the new JBL receivers. He wanted to make sure that he could individually control the trims, like I can do on my RMC1 from Emotiva, where I can raise the center, I can raise the sub channel, raise the surrounds. I could do that right from the remote on that. Looking at the remote that JBL provides, they don't have a dedicated button there, but there may be a sequence. But looking into the manual on this, I don't think they do. Unfortunately, you can adjust the bass and the treble. There is a dialogue enhance feature, but I don't think you can trim out the individual channels, only when you're fully calibrating, not while you're watching the movie. And I think that's a good thing to have, because you end up with different sources where some cases the dialogue is fine, in other cases you want to boost it up or cut it down. Or the same thing with the low frequency effects. So I do think there's post-calibration adjustments you need to do depending on the source or your particular mood of the day. We did this video this weekend on those new JBL Modern Audio Series receivers. These run from $400 to $1,600. There's 5 models. First person thanking me for the review, saying, hey, there's not a lot of information out here, but happy you did this, and he subscribed. Well, thank you for subscribing. Again, glad you're here. Stay with us. Another one, thanks for covering these, but they don't feel like these are going to tempt them over the more traditional options, right? And this is honest feedback, right? I'm trying to do is present things clearly so you as the viewer can make a decision. Come to your own conclusion about what you want to buy. And I want to minimize those after-purchase surprises. And that's what our job is on this channel. Now, as I said when I started this video, did JBL fail? And so little things that start cropping in with this feedback that we're getting, these comments. This person's asking about, hey, you've got this nice full display on the HP models. We can see cover art, a spectrum analyzer during the streaming. And that's a big benefit, right? Over the dot matrix screen. We see these lower cost streaming devices having that. Pay a few $100s and you get your album cover on there, or even simulated VU meters. But here we just seem to be getting status. That's all I can find in the manual. At the current status with the current firmware, we just seem to have status on the input and the volume and things like that. I'd be interested to see if you can even change these displays, because I'm looking at the volume, it says 50 and it's really small font. We got a nice big picture of an HDMI connector, but what you really need to see is kind of small. It'll be no better if we get one of these in-house. Now this person say he actually returned the MA710. Well, I didn't think these were available out, but apparently Best Buy got these earlier. So if some of you have access to that retailer, you might be able to get it. But I also saw the 310 is now available on the JBL site. So this is starting to become available. Now we can probably jump in here as well. They said it couldn't hold the biamp mode. Now I said, this could be a potential software issue when we're returning it just for that one issue. And he said, well, it was also shutting off and glitching out. So it wasn't just the biamp mode not holding, it was some stability problems. So that's not good. Right? And he's going back, well, he has R11s. I'm assuming they're KEF R11s. They need a lot of watts, a lot of Ws, a lot of watts. Yeah, those KEFs, I believe, dipped down under 4 ohms. So yes. This person saying he spent a few minutes in Best Buy. So it's not just on their online site. They have them physically there apparently. And he said, looks cheap, looks plastic. Well, again, I want to know that for myself. He didn't like it. And sure enough, here's some of these websites, Best Buy showing it available. I could get this by Thursday or Friday if we ordered it online. But if you look at, let's say, the same model, the 9100 HP, on the JBL site, they're saying it's out of stock, not available. But they did have the 310. This one saying no pre-outs is a bad move. You can purchase a Dirac calibration on the higher end model, so that was a positive. So nice balanced feedback. This one is, I didn't know about Easy Set EQ. They're saying this was a Harman Kardon calibration. So, okay, they've taken that forward. They had an AVR. They had a Harman Kardon AVR 760 that had the Easy Set EQ2, which would allow you to calibrate 2 separate subwoofers. And it worked well. Measures near field and to measure the speakers themselves, and far field to measure what the influence of the room is. And they liked the way it did. So great knowledge. Thanks for sharing. So they resurrected this older tool. It's not a bad thing. One saying this is the first thing that he's heard positive about the system, but really wished they had the pre-outs. A big miss from his perspective. Another person's weighing in and said, Class D amplification, that's 0.5%. I know I didn't see that in the specs, but you've apparently found that. But if you're only measuring to 0.5%, that's a lot of room for error there. He's feeling that this could give you a lot of distortion and no mic included. And I looked it up. The manual on this says you've got to use the microphone built into your mobile phone. So I don't know how good that will do, but that's how it works. Now, he came back and questioned, because I was saying, hey, you can have good Class D amplifiers. They're out there. But you can also have bad implementations of Class D. He was saying the only thing that he sees Class D that's good are like from NAD, and you're paying a lot of money. And it's been a technology that's been out there for a long time, but it recently got a lot better. To go along with this, we even see Macintosh using Class D, like in their MI502 digital amplifier. $4,500 is not inexpensive, so it goes along with his comment. So I'm wondering if if you're going to get a good Class D, maybe you have to pay a little bit more for it. This person saying the only reason I'd consider a JBL AVR is the Harman Lexicon Logic 7 sound mode. But unfortunately, it's not included anymore in their line of AVRs. So he's going to stick with Denon. I don't see them doing much with the Lexicon technology anymore. They still own the brand from all I know. Logic 7 was introduced in 1996, what I found online here. Here's one product that had it built in, the MC1 from 2008. So what are your thoughts on our feedback here? And do you have any more comments on that new JBL Modern Audio series? Is there somebody out there with some positive comments that can prop this up before we can bring it in ourselves to take a look at it? That feedback would be useful to the Ripewave audio community. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you're informed when the next video is posted. And don't be afraid to hit that thanks button. If you want to give us a tip, a small donation, that will help us out. Gosh, if everybody gave $1, we would be doing much better here on this channel. And we are trying to bring our subscriptions up. We're about 30% of those who watch these videos are subscribed. Let's get that to 40. Let's get it to 50. Let's keep going. That will help our channel. As always, we'd like to see you back here real soon. And until then, keep evolving your audio experience.